we have to prepare ourselves, even when it seems that that moment is not going to happen. There's a story that's in the news right now of a gentleman he was a homeless man. His name is Ted Williams. And he would stand on the side of the street and hold a cardboard sign, and it says, "I have a God-given talent. I have a voice from God, and I want to use this voice for radio." And people would stop, and he would have a voice that would come out, and they would be shocked. They would almost think that he's playing some type of recording in his pocket, but it was his voice. And they said, "Ted, go ahead and say something to us." And he said, "Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to today's news." And they asked themselves, they said, how in the world can a person have that type of voice and be in this situation? So what I want to talk about today is something called chains. Many of us are bound by chains. And if you think of a chain gang, a lot of times they'll put your hands and your feet together and you're barely walking. Now the reason that they bound your feet and they bound your hands is because you can't run, you can't be free. A lot of us have mental chains in our mind. And because of these mental chains, we can't run to see opportunity. In essence, we become blind. We feel that we're defined by our situation, and instead of going forward, we tend to look in the rear view. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if you ever tried driving backwards in a rear view, I think that you would possibly get in a wreck. Would y'all agree with me on that? Now, getting back to Ted. Ted had a moment in his life that changed his whole life in the matter of moments. This gentleman that was on the street 3 days ago was on a Today Show 2 days ago. And they said, "Ted, how are you dealing with all of this?" He says, "I prayed to my God. And I asked, I says, God, please help me. I have a mother that's 91 years old. I pray that she allows me just to see me right." So the TV producers were baffled. And in this 1 week time span, the Cleveland Cavaliers said, "Hey, we want to give you a job." Kraft Macaroni and Cheese gave him a $10,000 check just to do voiceovers because of his voice. And they said, "Ted, what happened?" He says, "Man, I remember coming back to New York City in 1986, and I got introduced to this thing called crack. And first I was, sniffing the crack, and then I went to smoking the crack. And then I started doing things that got me distant from what I was called to do. And because he was distant, he had chains." But see, the one thing about these mental chains is that you can take the chains off. It says in the Bible, "As a man thinketh, so is he." How many times have we thought that we're not successful? How many times have we thought that we're defined by this situation? How many times have we been unprepared? But what I propose to tell you this morning is that if you believe and you have the proper mindset and you believe in yourself and you release some of those chains, some of those blocks that you can shake and you can move a little freely, that you'll start to see the opportunities that present themselves. Think about that. In 1 moment's time, you could be 1 step from greatness, just like that. But in that same moment, you can lose it. What happened with Ted this week was he had the hope and the faith to believe that God had a purpose for him. And because he had that hope and that faith, guess what happened? He could be used. But the biggest thing that I saw this week when I saw and heard him speak was that he gave thanks to God. That he knew it was going to be better. He didn't know when, he didn't know how, but he said, "You know what? I'm not going to be defined by this situation. I'm going to stand out here, and if I stand out here long enough, I know something's going to happen." So in closing, what I want to say is, keep her straight. Dust the top of that door and prepare the button. And when you do that, watch the opportunity that will knock on your door. Thank you for your time.